All right, here we are. We are live on the Forrester B2B Summit Marketplace for another episode of Sales Pipeline Radio. Thank you again to Forrester for making this possible. We've been having a lot of fun, but I got to be honest, this I already think might be our best episode of the day. No offense to everybody that has been on to date, which has been amazing. But
I don't know who else was here, but
let's do it.
It wasn't you.
That's exactly right.
All right. So just to set the table, we're going to talk about modern CMOing. And this is not scripted. We don't know where this is going to go. Very excited to have Veena Vagnama, fractional CMO to the stars. Veena, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And Kate Long, also CMO to the stars.
Yes.
Currently running marketing at Crunchbase.
Thanks for having me.
I'm really glad you're both here. We were going to do these separately, and then Veena got hungry, and then you came early, and we're like, let's just all get
Eating is fine.
You got to, like, this. It's one thing I didn't plan. I had this whole schedule of, we're going to do these episodes when it's busy in here, and it's busy when there's lunch, but guess what you don't get to do if you're doing shows during lunch?
But lunch starts at 12:45.
That's not lunchtime, that's snack time.
Yeah.
No,
that's Pacific time. Like, my stomach was like, what's going on?
It's too late for lunch. Like, this is snack. It's going to be like second breakfast. You just need to work on some mealtime shit.
That's breakfast. Like, my boys have two of each. First and second breakfast, first and second dinner, lunch. Habits. I don't know. They're on their own at school. And
like, how old are your boys?
They're all teenagers.
Yeah, see, there you go. My oldest just turned 14, and he is now getting to the point where he is eating everything.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And by everything, I mostly just mean carbs and processed food.
How they can do that.
Yeah, there's one aisle of Costco that feeds my children. I don't know how they stay alive. I don't want to see what their insides look like at this point.
That is amazing.
But that's pretty much
Maybe you
it.
can have the CMO of Costco on next.
Yeah, but as you both know, there's a parenting channel in CMO Coffee Talk. There's a sandwich parenting group, which is about. And think about sandwich parenting is when you're parenting your kids and starting to parent your parents.
Yeah. I'm in sandwich parenting.
Yeah,
I'll join that.
So let's talk about that then.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, we can talk about all these things. So modern CMOing, I don't even know what that means. I kind of made it up. Either of you have an idea what? If you think modern CMO, do you wince a little bit?
I'll say something. So Matt and I were talking about our oldest kids looking at colleges, and I was looking at a college yesterday in Dallas with him.
Oh, nice.
He's looking at business, and one of the majors is marketing. And oh my God, is it data driven, right? In terms of what they're teaching them, supply chain analytics, just all the data processing, all the marketing operations side of it. You know, I went to business school a long time ago. It wasn't about all of this stuff. So I think modern CMOing, and as you're seeing here at Forrester, it is all about the data sets and how do you put all that together. And that's changed, right? In the last 10, 15 years. There was a session I just left. It was called The MQL is Dead, and it was supposed to be with some speakers. It was a packed room. And the guy was like, how many of y'all still use MQLs? And everybody raised their hand. He's like, yeah. So it's a nice idea, but we're still kind of stuck in this way. So I guess modern CMOing is finally trying to get past that. What do you think?
Well, I sort of have two thoughts. One is I used a term last week on CMO Coffee Talk that apparently everyone didn't know, which was about keeping your knees bent.
Oh, you were the one.
That was me.
I remember that.
Which essentially, it means remaining agile, right?
It was a basketball thing you explained, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. Cool. Otherwise, how are you going to play defense if your knees aren't bent?
That confused a lot of people.
I didn't mean to.
Yeah.
So,
I love it.
So bad way to characterize it, but I think agility.
Yeah.
So I was just commenting, I was meeting with somebody over in the Sixth Sense lounge, and I was talking about, so I just recently took this role at Crunchbase, and I actually was in the direct-to-consumer space for 2 years before that, and then before that I was in B2B. So I haven't been to Forrester in a few years, and I haven't used the traditional B2B tool set in a few years. It is night and day from 2022. I am having conversations with these reps from these companies thinking I know what they do, but I don't anymore because everybody's integrated AI and everybody's talking to everybody else. And well, everybody's using the same buzzwords. And so I think there's something about just always needing to be learning and open and agile because it's changing faster than any one of us, I think, would have ever expected when we got started.
Yeah. And it's the marketing operations hire now is one of the most critical, right? When you're first starting in a group. And also I've been in orgs that they're so over rotated on the tools and the measuring that they can't make heads or tails out of anything because it's just like, you don't get fired for getting IBM. It's like you don't get fired for putting in a bunch of tools and having a bunch of metrics. Well, yeah,
even
you do.
if they don't talk to each other
exactly.
and they're not
so
actually delivering ROI. Yeah.
Kind of gluttonous.
So you mentioned, Vina, you mentioned data sets. And back to those of us that have been around for a while, the coin of the realm in marketing has always been like, how much budget do you have and how much media can you buy and where are you putting your ads and how many of those ads are generating MQLs? Well, increasingly, the data is replacing that media spend as the coin of the realm. Like the better data you have, the more likely you can actually orchestrate the right behaviors and campaigns independent of how much money you spend on media.
Well, I will say that my sweet spot for fractional marketing, whatever I've been doing for 2 years now, it's all B2B, SaaS, less than 10 million in revenue, right? So we are forced to start with the end in mind because you have such a small budget. You have very little runway. So we do focus on that data. I think we're very good at it in our space because we don't have a choice. We have to look at the average sales. We have to look at the ICP. We have to work backwards from what's our target for the next couple of quarters. And then we decide our spend based on that, right? So that's the one luxury, I think, when you work in a smaller little world, there's a lot more connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the other thing, too, is that right now at Crunchbase, we're starting to evolve our model. We started out very much as a PLG organization. We still have that, but now we're moving into direct sales and really selling data into the enterprise. So we have a lot of data right now, but it works for the old model. And so a huge part of my job is figuring out what data do we have and how can it be used for the new model and where are our gaps? How do I augment it? Because we're not a under $10 million company, but we still have to make sure we're landing the right leads with the right rep, none of this big fancy B2C spend, right?
Kate, I'm curious, what's your process for looking at that tool or that data set and determining how valid it is?
Right. And so what I'm trying to do, I'm starting with the end in mind. There was a session that happened earlier in one of the tracks about the CMO and the B2B marketing org really being a driver of growth. And I know I joined Crunchbase with that as my primary mandate. And so it's essentially going, okay, here's our growth target. We're working on our account list. Now, what kind of data do we need to be able to get those account lists and start talking to them? And one of the things, for example, that we know we need to work on is our existing customer base. So we have a ton of data from people who use the platform, but we haven't done anything with it to then feed into the direct sales model. And so some of it is about figuring out how are we hitting those growth metrics, and some of it's about the lowest hanging fruit that's right in front of you. I don't want to spend on something crazy external if there's actually a lot we can do internally to get the ball rolling.
You know, on Coffee Talk, we've had April Dunford speak a few times. I think she's amazing, right? So she talks about these happy customers and being able to work from that. So it kind of sounds like that's what you're thinking about as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a good way to characterize it.
I like that.
Yeah.
Guys, there's a booth across from us here. Kate, I don't know if you can see it, but Vina, you can see it. They have puppies.
There's
puppies in the booth.
I'm going to give credit to Lead to Pipeline.
Shout out to Lead to
okay,
Pipeline.
I can't. So there's a therapy dog right here that I've been wanting to go pet.
Cute. Yeah.
But no, I can't see them.
Pipeline's got quite the crowd, ladies and gentlemen, because of the puppies.
I mean, you can't
that is brilliant.
Blame them.
Oh, man. When you do a show like this, we've all been around long enough. You've done a billion of these shows. As much as we joke about it, that's pretty brilliant, right? Like we're putting puppies in your, because we're sitting here talking about
Just the
Pipeline
conversation they must have had. And then they have a video in their booth that's showing all these puppies playing. I wonder if it's connected to an adoption agency that's local. Wouldn't that be cool?
It says puppy adoption.
It's a puppy adoption.
So now, Kate's really thinking about this. Look at that little thing. Anyway, way off topic.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't know how you pivot to that from team management, but we're gonna. When you come in as a new CMO, so you're new at Crunchbase, you inherit a team, you inherit a group of peers. How do you start to build trust and credibility coming in cold?
Oh, gosh. That's always hard to do. We happen to be a fully remote company, so I personally find it even harder. I really love getting to know a whole person and understanding what they're all about I guess, in front of the screen and off screen too, because there's no longer that divide. And that's harder to do remotely. So typically I'll start by just being really open and authentic and honest about who I am. And when I do that, it tends to engender like a similar response. As quickly as I possibly can, I make sure I'm just getting one-on-ones with everyone. And I treat those one-on-ones much more like a getting to know you than about a give me the laundry list of what you're working on kind of thing. And then I took the opportunity, just being here at Forrester, I brought 4 people from my team who we are spread out all over the country as a really great opportunity for us to spend time together, for them to start to learn more in service of this new direct sales model we're going to be rolling out. So it's not a playbook. It's just little bits and pieces of here and there. And I think some of it depends on what you're walking into. If you're walking into a situation like me where they haven't had a leader for a little bit, it's all roses because everybody's excited to have a leader. If you're walking into a situation where someone's been ousted, that is a whole nother.
You say no playbook, but you just walked through a bunch of steps, and I think that's a playbook.
Okay, I don't have it written down.
Like a checklist is a playbook, right? Like,
okay,
are you looking
fair
for
enough.
something glossy?
It's just in my noggin.
She just knows her steps.
Yeah.
So, Veena, I'm curious from your perspective as a fractional CMO, and not necessarily with. I mean, the question for you is not with your team, but with your peers. What are the nuances of building trust and credibility with your leadership team peers when you are fractional?
Yeah, one of the benefits about being fractional is that you do have a limited time, right, with the leadership team. So you have to get in, get the work done, and get out. So when I'm managing a team full time, just like Kate said, I bring in the user manuals. I discuss what's making you tick. Why are you taking this job? Are you trying to get a paycheck? Are you trying to move in your career? So I try to really get to know them. When you're at a fractional level, they brought you in to solve a problem. And so you don't spend a lot of time on that stuff. And sometimes it's nice because you just have to focus on getting the work done. But it's also why fractional work is usually temporary, right? Not long term, because once you've got the problem solved or the problem underway, you do exit. So you're not building those sort of long-term relationships as much as you would be if it's full-time.
Do you find that difficult? How long is a typical engagement that you have? And if these people are key to solving that problem, but you don't have the time to establish that?
Yeah, so where we work at 512 Financial, we've had 3 models that we bring in, and mostly our engagements are between 6 months and above.
Okay.
So we've had one client for 1.5 years, for example. So we'll come in and I'll just manage their internal marketing team. So those are all full-timers, but I'm managing them part-time. In that scenario, I do get to know them because they're there full-time. I want to make sure that they're motivated and they're happy and it's all going well. Sometimes I'll bring in my part-time marketing executors on top of strategy. And so I know my team. So we all have that nice little bond already. And then sometimes I'm just in trying to solve a problem. And in those situations, get in and get out.
You mentioned, Veena, earlier this concept of product market fit. I'm not doing a very nice job transitioning. We're just going to go there.
I love it.
I don't think a lot of people think about that.
Oh, that's because they haven't had the problem, I bet. You have that problem, that's all you think about.
Maybe.
It's not that easy.
It's really not that easy. And I think, like, if you go to a sales team and say, what do you need? Many of them are going to say, I need leads. It's like, no, you don't. Leads is a manifestation of a market that demands what you're selling. Right? So if the market understands and covets the solution you have that solves the problem they have, that's it. That's a version of product market fit. So if we can nail product market fit, I'm not saying that you build it, they will come. I'm not saying like if you nail that, everyone's going to come to your doorstep. But the response will be better. Your conversion rates will be higher. Your sales cycle will be shorter. So if you tell a sales team, if you're going to call someone and say what you represent, you want a market that's like, oh, hell yeah, I have that problem. I want to solve for that. Right? But easier said than done.
Yeah.
And so in the conversations we have, most people come and just say, we need to build demand. We need to build pipeline, but there isn't necessarily even a documented product market fit that tells me that they're actually onto something.
Yeah, one of the things I've noticed with my clients is that there's a lot of smaller B2B, 2 million, 4 million revenue companies that are struggling with product market fit. And so they'll go to a Gartner and a Forrester. I'm not trying to discount where we are today, but they'll go to Forrester and be like, I'm going to sign a massive multi-year engagement so you guys can help me with my product market fit problem. Well, these analyst firms they work on mature markets majority of the time. So to have a mature market person come in and help you establish product market fit when you have an innovative, new, nobody knows this thing exists. Like one of my clients, the CEO was like, we compete with Excel and our price point is $50,000. I'm like, well, we're going to have a hard time explaining to people that they can get Excel or they can get this for $50,000. So you have to really work on that. And I think product market fit is an all day, all night problem. A lot of people just hire demand gen because they think that's what all they need. And I'm like, nope, product marketing is going to help you get that demand gen thing started.
Yeah. And I'm curious if either of you have seen this. I think we're starting to see a little bit of a correction. I'm starting to see a little more out there in support of brand and product marketing as sort of the understanding that these are like long-term demand plays. It's still all about demand. You still need to generate the demand, but these are the long-term plays and they're not necessarily going to be the thing you can automatically translate into an MQL, right? But they're going to be the things that smooth the glide path for that sales conversation so that the salesperson isn't taking an hour to explain who you are, what you do, why you're worth of value, right? It's the kind of things that have people keep you in their mind. If they're not ready to buy now, they're ready to buy in 6 months or a year. And of course, that's harder to measure, and everybody needs to see those results today. But I think we're learning that those results are really like short term in nature. So I feel like I'm starting to see a little bit more out there that's a correction back. But I guess what I would say is because I was just on the job market, I felt like I started seeing more brand focused positions. I started seeing a little more words like positioning, right? Like out there.
Yeah, I want that to be true. And I know that there are some companies that are doing that. Even in the B2B space, I'm seeing companies do everything from just investing more in their communities, investing more in customer advisory boards, investing in even sort of activations beyond just the normal things in their industry. Like Smartsheet has been heavily into Formula One. You've got a lot of B2B brands that are heavily into sports and golf and tennis and other things, where it's not just about having someone's logo on your sleeve, it's the activation around that, right? It's getting a golfer to come do putting lessons for your customers, right? I mean, so you could argue some of those are lead gen related, but that investment in the logo on someone's car, that's brand. And that's a brand activation. You can't measure that purely on pipeline.
Right.
My eyebrow went up because I think everyone wants that. But when it comes down to it, when it comes down to how much you spend on that, like even just in the half day we've been doing this session here, I've had my, oh man, that's a great idea. We should have like a podcast booth. Well, this isn't free, right? You got to spend money on the space and on the equipment and everything else. And it's not crazy expensive, but $1 for dollar on that, when you've got a board or a leadership team saying like, how much pipeline did we get out of every dollar we spent? I think when the rubber meets the road, people just want pipeline. We can argue this forever that, you know, why that balance should exist. And yet the reality is it's still pretty unbalanced. Yeah.
Well, you can do anything with your budget if you can explain to the board how it added to the bottom line.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, at the end of the day, you can talk about how the puppies here added triple their leads, hopefully, at the show, which ultimately tripled maybe opportunities.
You can A/B test puppies.
And yet you could. So I'm saying, even the logo on the race car can be attributed somehow.
Wouldn't it be cool if we had data here where like, okay, like that booth has plush dolls, that booth has chocolate, that booth has puppies. Who's got the most traffic? I can eyeball this right now and tell you who's winning.
Yeah. But is it the right traffic? Is it qualified traffic?
Well, but that's the conference's job, right? So if I'm looking at a place like this thing, I want to attract mid-market to enterprise B2B marketers. This is your shot, right? If you were going to have puppies at Dreamforce, where it's like 100,000 people and you've got developers and marketers and salespeople and everybody, I don't know, right? And so you still got to do that math.
Yeah. I do want to come back to the question of, you were saying, as long as you can attribute the spend to the bottom line, I think the issue becomes the short-term, long-term. Like, what is the board's view of when that bottom line should hit? Yes. And I think that's the really, really big tension. I think particularly in the last few years, especially just given how tight things have been.
And I'll do a plug for my article on LinkedIn, Why Marketing Cannot Report to Sales, because I believe very
I'm going to need to read
very
that
consistently
one.
that
You tell
no, just real quick. I was just saying, marketing has to think of that long term.
Right.
the puppies, and it has to think of what's happening this quarter.
Yeah.
Right. And if you report to sales, you're only thinking about what's happening this quarter. And then you don't get to do the puppies.
Yeah.
See how I keep bringing it back
to the puppies.
Kate, what are you thinking?
Oh, no. All I was going to say is I wrote an article about why product marketing shouldn't report to product.
Ooh, I want to read that one.
You and I are cut from a very similar cloth.
I would agree with that premise, and I want to read it.
This has been a great conversation. This is a segue. We're all old enough to have kids, and I think we all have teenagers at this point.
We do.
What does raising teenagers teach you about B2B marketing?
Oh, that's a good one.
That was unfair. Well, that was kind of clickbait without really the answer.
It was clickbait.
Yeah. What is raising teenagers? And are you a boys?
I'm a boy mom.
Boy
Three
mom?
boys.
Okay.
3 boys.
3 boys. That's why I liked you.
Both have 3 boys.
You're a 3-boy mom too.
How many eggs do you go through in a week?
Eggs.
Oh my God.
Eggs and bread.
Before coming to Phoenix, I am not even kidding you. On Friday, I bought 72 eggs. Count them, 72.
Whoa.
When I left on Monday morning, 24 were already gone.
Oh my God. And eggs are expensive.
Do you know what the pro tip is? Get chickens.
I know people are doing that.
I don't want another thing to take care of.
Well, yeah, I can't even keep plants alive. I feel like that would be a bad recipe.
Chickens are lower maintenance than cats. We've had chickens for years.
Okay.
And it does take a little extra time. And if you think you're saving money, you're kidding yourself. You will spend way more money on your eggs.
Well, then don't tell me that's the secret.
But you don't have to go to the market. Like we have 10 chickens, and this time of year, we get 8 to 10 eggs a day.
Oh, that's amazing.
They just keep showing up. And between kids and baking and everything else, we go through a lot of eggs. So they're not cheap eggs, but they are also fun.
Yeah.
I've been trying to answer your question, which was a good one. And my only comment that I'll make is that understanding how to parent my children has made me better at marketing because the targeting is so critical.
Okay.
And how you talk to a teenager.
Okay.
You learn that not so quick. I wish I learned it quicker, but I'm better at it now with my second teenager there now. But yeah, I don't know about B2B. That's a good one.
No, but I think that's right. If you're nurturing an audience over a long period of time, the way you talk to your teenager, it's different than how you talk to them when they were in middle school than when they were in
100%.
elementary school. So it's like the whole customer life cycle right
100%,
there
100%.
in front of you.
We were going to visit a college, like I said. On the way back, he was driving the car, and so he gets to do the music. And he kept changing the song after every 30 seconds. And I'm like, you listen to Spotify like you listen to TikTok. He just couldn't get through the whole song. This whole generation, man. I'm telling you.
I know.
My youngest son is really into baseball, but what that means is he likes watching highlights. He has never sat through a whole game. Like I've taken him to games and he can't sit through the whole game. Even if you keep buying food, he won't want to sit through the whole game.
Yeah.
It's a different attention span.
It's
totally
so different.
It totally
it's scary
is.
as heck.
I think my learning of parenting, especially teenagers, as it pertains to B2B marketing, is like, don't hold anything too tightly. Let everything roll off your back. Again, like knees bent. Hey, everybody, back to the bad analogy. But like agility, right? I think you parent differently for each kid, and you can't get your fur up about every little thing that they say and do that annoys you because you would just constantly be
100%.
It's the same way. Like you can't get your fur up every time your CEO says something stupid or your head of sales wants something. It's really about just being super chill and rolling with things.
Absolutely.
So my husband, he and I are really different in that way.
Yeah.
We ended up balancing each other out. There were times where he would get so frustrated with me because I wasn't reacting to something the kids were doing. Or I would get frustrated with him because I'd be like, I don't think that's worth reacting to.
So my wife sent me something the other day because I'm a little too hard on the kids. I'll admit that. But I think she sent me something that said, if your kid comes downstairs in the morning and they're happy and they're talking to you, do not bug them about their messy room. Do not bug them about leaving milk on the table. Do not get on their case about little things. Just enjoy the moment. Enjoy the morning.
Yes.
And it was a good reminder, and I wish I heard it 5 years ago.
Yes. I'm not good at this either, but I try really hard. Like every day, I want to give them more positive affirmations than criticisms, right? And so if at the end of the day, if my balance was more positive, then, that I feel like, okay, that's a win for me as a parent. Because, man, I've had days where it's been not that way.
And
it's
I think
bad.
it's even a win if they're, especially when they're teenagers and they're boys, that they're just talking to you. So in the morning, what I'll do, because my job is now fully remote, I will wake up when they wake up. I will make my coffee and I will just sit there with them while they're getting ready. They may not say anything to me, but I'm there if they want to. And then if they do say something, I'm like, oh my God, they love me.
I know, I got validation. Oh my God, they thought of me. We're the puppies.
Yeah, we are. Scratch a little more here, scratch a little more here.
So I think maybe the last question I want to ask you guys, because we're all parents of kids that rely on us on a daily basis. It sounds like we've got spouses that can chip in when we're traveling. But as important as events like this are, how do you make that trade-off to decide when you come to an event like this and when you need to stay home? I think about this a lot as the events have come back for me as a consultant. Like going to events is a big part of our visibility in biz dev. And yet I don't want to be gone all the time.
Yeah.
So you got to pick your spots.
I find as the mom of 3, which you can relate to, I get re-energized at these sorts of conferences. I learn, I get out of my comfort zone. I take care of myself for a couple of days, which is really nice. I come back, I'm a better parent. Mm-hmm. So to me, doing this a couple times a year at least, it helps me at home, believe it or not.
Yeah, I very much feel the same way. And I've had the good fortune ever since my kids were young. I was the one who was always traveling. And thank goodness that my spouse had a job where he didn't have to. And I always found that getting away was like what I needed to be reinvigorated. But that said, it does always come with a trade-off. I still don't make the decisions lightly, but it's definitely more on a case-by-case basis, or it's more on a like, they play baseball. Which season is it? Okay, I am missing a bunch of my kids' baseball games this week, but which season is it? Or is it during their finals week? I'm not going to leave during finals week. So some of it has to do with the calendar at home too, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's wrestling season. It's middle school wrestling season.
Ooh.
And my middle son's 8th grade, and he's not the world's best wrestler, but he really enjoys it. It gives him a lot of confidence as a middle schooler that we all struggle with in middle school. And to be there, whether he wins or loses, it's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
I think that earlier in my career, I justified traveling a lot because I'm like, well, I don't miss birthdays. I don't miss first days of school. I don't miss weekends. But you know what I do miss is Tuesday.
Aww.
Yep.
You miss those midweek moments. And the older I get, the more mistakes I make. I realize building relationships with my kids is not about the big moments. It's about the everyday moments.
It's just about driving in the
having
car.
that
It's on the way to
Exactly.
practice.
Yep.
It's the windshield time. It's prioritizing with each of the kids having something that is just the thing we do. Just the two of us.
Oh, I love that.
It doesn't even have to cost money, but it's just something that we do together. I almost said, if you come to my hotel room, and I stopped myself because that would be inappropriate.
Yeah, that's inappropriate.
But on my bedside table right now is the first book of the Wings of Fire series. Do you know the Wings of Fire?
Yes, I do.
And so it's a young adult. I don't even know if it's young adult. It's a scholastic book, right?
Yeah.
It's about dragons that are supposed to have a prophecy and a destiny.
Yes.
And
My
so
middle
I am
son.
reading this because my middle son loves this series. And he's on like book 12.
Oh, my
and he's
gosh.
trying to explain it to me. He's like, Daddy, you should read it. And I'm thinking the last thing I want to do is read this week. And I'm into it now, and I'm like, God, this is definitely
so
written for a
good.
junior.
You
But
have
I'm
to
like,
share
we're
with
going to have
them.
something to talk about.
Yes.
And then I'm going to be like, well, I wonder what happens now. No spoilers, Nick. And it's one of those moments,
Yeah.
you get.
I'm into Outlander right now. Do you think I get my kids to read Outlander? No, I don't
Is that
think so.
appropriate?
Isn't that a little...
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
It's a
yeah.
joke.
Yeah, I was like, wait a second. It took me a second there.
But it's a good story. It's got
We
it.
got Bridgerton. Yeah,
It's got
Bridgerton.
Yeah, you got it. I got it.
I love me
that's
some
good too.
Bridgerton.
Well, not with the 11-year-olds. Okay,
No.
so, well, this has
good
been fun.
conversation.
I'm glad we did this together because it would have been fun separately.
Yeah,
but
wonderful.
This was
Thank
great.
you.
So good.
Yes.
Vina, Kate, thank you so much for being here. What are you looking forward to the next day and a half?
I'm going to continually go to all the sessions where I do not understand anything in the title.
Yeah, perfect.
Because those are the ones where I
That's a
learn the
great
most.
strategy. That's a great strategy.
What does that mean?
And I'm going to, my team and I already did a split up so that we all go and get different content. And so we're all doing learning against some of the big things we've got to do. And I, of course, look forward to the sessions, but I look forward to the team debrief too, because it's us coming back together and sharing all of our learnings, which is the only way it sticks anyway.
It's true. All right. Thank you so much for being here.
Matt, thank you.
Look forward
Thanks,
to seeing you out and
Matt.
about at Club 6, at the parties, the raves, and the all-nighters later
Yes,
tonight.
raves
It'll be
and the
good.
all-nighters.
We had someone come on earlier, $100 if you can guess who it was. So another CMO was on earlier, and I found out that she was a DJ when she was in college. And she called it a Saturday night gig, but it was 5 to 8 a.m. Sunday morning. And that's not the kind of Saturday night I'm thinking of. But she-
Well, they've got a DJ out there, and I was thinking to myself, it's probably the best gig. It's a daytime gig, and you laugh at all these nerdy tech guys as they walk past, and you probably get paid better than a bar.
I often think that the musical acts they bring onto these things, I just make fun of people. I still remember when Metallica played Dreamforce.
Oh my!
They had Journey at Cisco Live one year. Journey. I've never seen
I'm
men
into all of it.
run.
How
many men
how
were
fortunate
running
are
that
we
day.
that for your job you go to a conference that has Train and
Right.
it has
Yes.
Metallica
Yes.
and Journey.
Yes.
But the look on some of their faces when they're in a convention center and they're hopefully getting paid pretty well, but half the people are paying attention, the other half are just like,
This is
eating
not
and
the
drinking.
future they envisioned for themselves.
No.
Well, I assumed that Metallica was going to show up at Dreamforce and play like the more pop songs that people. I think they're like, no, we're going old school. We're going to play Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning, do all the old stuff, and just scare the crap out of these developers.
Sounds about right.
I still have a picture. I went with Annika Seeley, and she does her own sort of sales consulting, and she's been around for a while. Mark Benioff worked for her in an inside sales role back in the day.
Wow.
So she's like an OG. And I remember we were at an event right before that, and I said, I'm going to go to the Metallica concert. And she's like, I wasn't going to go. I'm like, oh, they're really good. I said, what kind of music? It's like, well, metal. She's like, oh, go check that out. I have a picture somewhere of her, but just this quizzical, like, she's watching, and it's this combination of, what is that and why am I here and who dragged me to this and when will it be over? All in one look.
Wow.
It was phenomenal. Shout out Annika, I love you. You know I tell this story, and I hope you did enjoy some of that because we got to be like 5 feet from James Hetfield and it was amazing.
That's awesome.
Good memories.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
See you out there.
Thank you. Have a good day.